There is something that is very. It happened quite often in my childhood for some reason. I attracted a lot of predators. Ha. As difficult as it was to say that actual statement, if you watch this series, you would have known in grave detail just how traumatic my childhood has been. Today I want to have a I want to tell you a story of how I met my second predator, not my first. So the person who abused me when I was a child. There was a predator after him that I encountered in high school. And I want to talk to you today about it. So let's go. Like diamonds, I'm watching how you glow. What's up, everybody? It's your boy AJ here, coming through your TV screen, your phone screen, your laptop screen, and beyond. How you doing, mate? I love you. Okay, that's how I want to start. I love you. So, when I was in high school, I had a brief encounter. And when I say brief, I mean it was really brief. It wasn't another type of abuse or anything. And this is something that happened more than I would like it. I found myself being prone and attracting predators. It's almost like predators can see a victim, can know a victim when they see one. I think and a lot of times I try to understand rather than being the victim and playing the role of a victim. I have this weird thing where I try to understand the predator and why you perceive someone as the victim. When I was in high school, I was a lonesome child. I kept to myself mostly. I never had much friends. I was too busy being bullied. I was too busy being verbally attacked. People made fun of me. My high school and my childhood was miserable, to say the least. But what made it very over the top was just how much I find myself in predatorial situations. I have encountered numerous amount of predators. I never saw myself as a magnet for those kind of things, but I attracted them anyway. The thing about it is, I've only been abused by a predator once. Every other encounter has been brief, and I feel like that's just like a reminder. So in my head when I was a child, life kept, and this is what I thought as a child, life kept reminding me of my worst experiences. So I made it through that abuse as a child, but then I keep encountering predator after predator, and I'm thinking to myself, why am I being reminded of this? I tried to forget. Life would not let me. It kept being reminded over and over and over again. And to be honest, it's actually something that I know when I look at it, grateful for, because encountering those predators and constantly being aware and reminded of what I've experienced made me never experience it again. So I never let my guard down in that way for that sort of thing to repeat itself. So in a sense, I am actually grateful, but then there's a part where I'm being constantly reminded of the worst day of my life. That being understood, I want to discuss to you how it happened. So I was I was a part of my choir when I was in high school. The high school choir, I was a part of it. And we had just had a choir rehearsal. Now, addition to that, if you watch previous videos, you would have known that I used to sing with a group, a all boy band group when I was in high school. So I had the choir rehearsal, and then right after that we would have had the group rehearsal. And that's usually how my days were structured when I was in high school. It's always music. So right after that rehearsal, I made my way downtown to the transportation center. This was at around 7, 8 o'clock at night. Because I had to take a bus to get to downtown, to then go to the transportation, walk to the transportation center. That's like a 20-minute walk. And then I would then wait for probably like another 30 minutes for the bus that takes me home. Yes, when I was a child, I took public transportation. In third world countries, they don't have buses that take you back and forth to school. It wasn't something I had the luxury for. I only found out about things like that when I moved to America. It was mind-boggling to me. But it's nice that children can have those luxuries, because a lot of crazy people are out here, and your children are very much at risk. So it's nice for them to have those kind of luxuries. I wish I had it when I was a kid, though. I went downtown, and I was standing and I was waiting on the bus for me to take to get home. It was like 7, 8 o'clock at night, pitch dark. I was at the transportation center with probably like 10 other people, but we were spaced out, so we wasn't close. So this guy, he came up behind me, right next to me on my shoulder, and he bounced me. And you know when you pretend like you accidentally bumped into someone? And he did that. He pretended like he accidentally bumped into me. He did it on purpose, though. And then he turned to me and he apologized, and I brushed it off. I was like, okay, you good, don't worry about it. And then he proceeded to start a conversation with me. That's how they function. So they do things that you probably wouldn't notice. As a kid, I wasn't paying attention to that. So he proceeded to start a conversation with me, and I turned and I'm there and I'm listening to him speak, but I had a feeling something was wrong. But at the same time, I couldn't quite put a finger on it until he actually made it clear that he was a predator. So I'm there, and he's asking me regular simple questions that how are you used to taking these buses? Like I'm not familiar with the transport. And he pretended like he wasn't familiar with the area. And then out of nowhere, the conversation took a turn for the worse, and that's exactly how I knew he was a predator. He turned to me and he goes, "Would you like me to take you home?" I turned and I was like, "What? Take me home?" It's like, "Yeah, me and my friend, he's in a car at the end of the block, and I can take you home if you want." At this point, it really clicked into my head that, okay, I'm in an awkward moment. I have no idea whether I'm being kidnapped or abducted or this is just because other people were there, but it's like the people who were there weren't grasping an understanding of what was going on because it wasn't obvious. So he was, after he made that suggestion, I kind of froze up and I didn't really know what to say or what to do. And then he goes, yeah, you can ride in the back seat. I can take you home. And he goes, we can have a threesome and then I'll drop you back off. And in my mind, I'm completely frozen. I'm frozen. Still, I could not move. While he's having the conversation, like, I want to run, but my body wouldn't let me. I was so afraid, I was so scared, and he was just talking, but I wasn't responding. Cause in my head, I'm scared to death, and eventually I started crying, like what the hell is going on? Am I about to? Is this it for me? Am I about to die? Like, what what is going on? I had no idea how to process that moment. But then, out of the nowhere, I suddenly had the courage to respond to what was going on. And I said, no. He's like, you're not coming? I said, no. No. And then after that, I walked quickly as possible towards the people who were closest to me, and I went and I stood by them. And then he started to walk off. He ran off eventually, and then the car that was down at the end of the block that he was talking about, he hopped into it and they drove off. And that was my first experience with my second predator. Trust me, it is actually way more graphic than I'm saying it to you, but I have to filter it. So that was, as a child, I was prone to situations like that. I've never told anyone that story except you that is watching it. This is the first time that that story has ever made it in the public sphere. Not even my mother knew. I don't. Sometimes I see, now I'm tongue tied and I can't speak. Just thinking about it is putting me back into my younger self and how I felt when it was happening. Like, I was shocked and traumatized and frozen. Like someone just randomly walked up to me and offered to wow. Yeah. So that happened to me, and from that moment I kept wondering why things like that would ever happen to me. It was curious to me because I kind of felt like, in a sense, I was attracting the most cruel type of energies and cruel people on the surface of the planet, that I wondered at one point, who am I to be attracting these predators? If I'm attracting those predators, what does that make me as a person? I'm an innocent child who wants nothing to do with any of what's being offered to me. But still, those predators found their way. Luckily, it was all brief experiences, mostly like that I just explained. It was just, and for about another 5 years, I kept running into people like that for some strange reason. I couldn't quite put a finger on it why, but life kept reminding me of my worst moment. But like I said, there's an appreciation for those moments because it kept reminding me of my worst moment, and then in a sense I made sure that those moments never happened to me again. So I was constantly on guard, protecting myself from situations like that. And as I said, you live in a third world country like Jamaica. My mother was in a very difficult situation of being mother and father, so I was put in the position of raising myself. And I had to learn how to do it by going through situations like that. I wish none of this on anyone. And luckily for me, I wasn't kidnapped. I wasn't abducted. Because that could have easily been the situation, and no one in, in a country like that could have done anything about it. Like, I would have just gotten kidnapped and no one would have been the wiser. Hopefully, no one has to experience that other than what I had to go through, but I wanted to share that moment with you to build some awareness. If you are a parent and you feel like you need to relinquish some of the governance you have over your children because you think they're mature enough to handle themselves, I would ask you to stay alert and keep paying attention. Even if you give them space and you give them room, still pay attention. Because a lot of things could be happening that you don't know about. And you want to have that relationship with your child where they're comfortable enough to actually come to you and speak to you and talk to you about it. Otherwise, you'd probably be one of those parents that regret. And I'm sure you wouldn't want to do that. With that being said, it's your boy AJ. I love you. I just took myself down back to memory lane, and now I'm stuck in my head, kind of, sort of. I love you. With that being said, with that being understood, I'm signing out.